may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, like I said, every video that we are going to make today is going to be based on the questions y'all ask me through Instagram and Twitter. So all of these trade questions came from one of those places. Now, later on today, I will be making a video where we go through and answer your start-sit questions. And then later, we'll be going and making a video where I grade your rosters and come up with recommendations on how you can change it to improve going into the fantasy football playoffs. So if y'all are not already, go follow us on Instagram and on Twitter. And even if you don't want to follow us on Instagram to ask your questions, go do it anyway so I can tell my girlfriend I'm famous and so I can end all arguments extremely soon with just the statement, hey, that's why I'm famous. You don't know what you're talking about. It's going to be real simple, really improve my life, guys. Regardless, all jokes aside, let's get into it and let's break down these 5 questions that were submitted on Instagram and Twitter. And this first question is centered around the Philadelphia Eagles offense, trading away Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor for my favorite rookie wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. Now guys, I will say, yes, y'all know I went out there and told y'all to pick up Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor from the waiver wires a few weeks ago. These are the reasons that I really did not want anything to do with Travis Fulgham. Y'all know after Travis Fulgham was on a tear, producing like a high-end wide receiver 1, I told y'all to go and sell Travis Fulgham as we were going to have Jalen Reagor as the wide receiver 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles the second that he stepped back into this offense. And that's exactly what's happened. Jalen Reagor is definitely the best wide receiver on that roster. I don't care if Alshon Jeffrey's healthy. I don't care if Deshaun Jackson's coming back. I don't care if Travis Fulgham is there. Jalen Reagor is the wide receiver 1. And guys, I know a lot of people want to be worried about Dallas Goedert with Zach Ertz coming off the short-term IR. But Zach Ertz is dust. Zach Ertz is completely done. If you look at the efficiency that we saw from Zach Ertz whenever he was the man by himself in Philadelphia, where we had not had the Travis Fulgham breakout yet, we had no Dallas Goedert, we had no Jalen Reagor, we had no Alshon Jeffrey, we had no Deshaun Jackson in the offense. It was truly just Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz was seeing about 12 targets a game and not even producing as a low-end tight end 1. I mean, there were guys who were seeing about 15% of the targets that Zach Ertz had and were outproducing Zach Ertz. I mean, congrats, Ertz, on the fantastic NFL career that you've had. But I think based on the efficiency that we saw earlier in 2020, I think that we can safely say that he is complete dust, and we're not going to expect him to supplant Dallas Goedert as the tight end 1 on this offense. But on the other hand, with Justin Jefferson, he has been the most efficient rookie wide receiver we have ever seen. He has been the most efficient wide receiver in the NFL in 2020. If you're looking at yards per snap, if you were looking at yards per target, I mean, Justin Jefferson is a man amongst boys, and he's 21 years old. Justin Jefferson is younger than I am, and he is going out there and dominating at the NFL level like we have never seen before from a rookie wide receiver. Here, I'll say we are going to go with Justin Jefferson. If we were seeing Carson Wentz play at that 2017 level of Carson Wentz, then I think we could go with the Philly pass catchers, but I think that overall offense is going to be a little bit limited with how poorly Carson Wentz has played so far. All right, so now let's get to our next trade question. This is going to be Joe Mixon for Mike Evans. Real quick, guys, y'all know Joe Mixon has been on our buy low running back list for, I want to say, the past 3 weeks, except this week. As soon as he was put on the short-term IR, we took him off that list right away. But I will say I owe y'all a massive, massive, massive apology. I mean, that was not only a very bad call by me from an outcome scenario, but it was also just a very bad process call. I think that we really need to be hesitant in trading for these injured players whenever their teams have no shot at the playoffs. Because if their teams have no shot at the playoffs, really, there's no incentive for them to come back. And I think now that we saw Joe Burrow done for the year, there is almost no chance that we get Joe Mixon back to this Cincinnati Bengals offense. What would be the incentive for them to go out there, activate him from the short-term IR, roll him out for 3 weeks for 3 meaningless games when they already have him on a long-term contract? No, I think that Joe Mixon's going to be shut down for the year. He's just going to get ready for 2021. There's no reason for the Cincinnati Bengals to go out there and activate him. And even if Joe Mixon comes back to this offense this season with no Joe Burrow, this is going to be one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. So I think the production from Joe Mixon would be severely capped, as he is not going to get many looks at the goal line whatsoever, because this team is going to have a very hard time moving the ball down the field. Now, on the other hand, with Mike Evans, y'all know this is a wide receiver that has been consistently making our sell high list, just because he's playing in an offense where he's not close to being one of the top options, with Chris Godwin, with Antonio Brown, with Rob Gronkowski, all seeing a significant amount of targets in that offense. I think that Mike Evans is going to be a wide receiver 3 for the rest of the season. I love the talent. The problem is the situation is just not what it was with Jameis Winston. But here, because we don't think we're going to get Joe Mixon back in 2020, and even if Joe Mixon comes back in a couple of weeks, his ceiling is going to be so limited that we are just going to go with the wide receiver and Mike Evans, even though this is going to be one of the very few times I ever tell you to trade for Mike Evans. All right, so now our next question coming out. Pretty sure this was a troll question. Regardless, we're going to include it in the video. Derrick Henry for Nick Chubb. Real quick, guys, I want to really dive into this because y'all know I have been the #1 hater on Nick Chubb in fantasy football. I am fully willing to admit that Nick Chubb could easily be a top 5 running back in terms of his pure NFL talent, but anybody who's paying attention to the statistics that matter in fantasy football to try to translate production from that talent really realizes that Nick Chubb is not seeing the touches that matter in his offense. Nick Chubb has 4 targets total on the season, and on top of that, Nick Chubb is being out-touched by Kareem Hunt severely when they are both active inside the 10-yard line. Now, we know that targets out of the backfield and touches inside the 10-yard line are the most valuable touches that any running back can see in the entire NFL. So even if Nick Chubb is that elite talent at the running back position, the role that he has with Kareem Hunt soaking up all of the high value touches, I think is going to limit Nick Chubb to being a low end running back 1, despite that elite option like we are seeing with Derrick Henry. I know a lot of people want to come out here and compare these two running backs, as Derrick Henry generally is known to not see a good amount of usage in his offense in the passing game. But guys, Derrick Henry is averaging anywhere from 2 to 4 targets every single game. He's averaging pretty much the same amount of targets a game that Nick Chubb has on the entire season. I mean, there are night and day differences. Even if you want to come out here and talk about Derrick Henry maybe being a run-first running back, not going to be an elite pass-catching option like an Alvin Kamara, his usage in the Titans passing game is significantly higher than what we were seeing with Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns. All right, so now let's get into our next trade. This is going to be A.J. Brown for DeAndre Swift and Tyler Boyd. Here, I'm going to say we are easily taking the DeAndre Swift side. With Tyler Boyd, honestly, he does not even factor in for this trade with me. I think that all of those Cincinnati Bengals skill positional players are almost completely dead without Joe Burrow. I'll say that I think the absence of Joe Burrow is honestly probably going to hurt T. Higgins a little bit more than Tyler Boyd, because Tyler Boyd operates closer to the line of scrimmage, where the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals isn't necessarily going to have to be ballsy and chunking the ball further down the field like we saw with Joe Burrow in that T. Higgins connection. So maybe we see Tyler Boyd be the #1 wide receiver yet again in Cincinnati with a new quarterback. But I will say, just because that offense is going to be severely handicapped, that I think that there's no way you can project Tyler Boyd to be anything more than a wide receiver 3. And on the other hand, we have A.J. Brown as a mid wide receiver 1 rest of season. The problem here is DeAndre Swift is that truly elite option. DeAndre Swift is very similar to an Alvin Kamara and Aaron Jones, where he's not going to see every single touch in his backfield, but he's going to be seeing all of the high value touches in terms of the targets, in terms of the usage within the 10-yard line. So with DeAndre Swift, knowing the running back positional scarcity and how much harder it is to find that running back production over the wide receiver, I think that he's going to blow A.J. Brown out of the water. Even though I am very excited about A.J. Brown, I love his rest of season schedule. Here with DeAndre Swift, he truly looks like a league winner. All right, so now our last trade, very similar to the one before, A.J. Brown for Kenyon Drake. And now y'all know I just talked about why the running back position is so much more valuable than the wide receiver. But here, I think that we actually go with A.J. Brown. Kenyon Drake, the problem with him is he is just not seeing enough targets out of his backfield. On top of that, he's not only missing from the Arizona Cardinals passing game, but he's also getting vultured at the goal line from Kyler Murray, who is currently on pace to smash Lamar Jackson's rushing touchdown total from last season. So here, I think with Kenyon Drake, we have to understand that yes, he can be a mid to low end running back 2 rest of season, but knowing that he does not have that high end running back 1 in his range of outcomes, he's going to be ending up lower than A.J. Brown in our rest of season rankings, assuming that this is done in a vacuum. Alright, now thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Reminder, go follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That way you can get your questions broken down in the videos that are coming out later today. I will be live streaming tonight and tomorrow morning as well to answer all of your last minute fantasy football questions.